So is war ever really about what the history books claim it's about? We get the speeches, the flags, the grand ideologies of us versus them. But when you strip all that away, how often is it really just a business transaction that sort of spiraled completely out of control?
That's the eternal question, I think. And usually if you follow the money or in the case of the massive stack of sources we have for you today, if you follow the alloy shipments and the trade tariffs, the answer is pretty cynical and honestly pretty tragic.
Cynical, tragic, and visually spectacular. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are unpacking a conflict known as the Forge War and the Tides of Zyralii. Now, I was looking through the narrative histories and the intercepted comms logs you sent over, and I have to say, this feels like a high-budget sci-fi movie. I mean, we have magma-skinned blacksmiths fighting aquatic admirals.
Yeah, it really does have that cinematic flair, doesn't it? But what drew me to this topic wasn't just the visuals, it's the data behind it. Specifically, this one document we have called the World Chart.
Right, the World Chart. Which sounds like a generic map, but it's actually this massive galactic census, right?
Think of it more like a sociological spreadsheet.
Yeah.
It tracks civilizations not just by location, but by aggression level, cultural temperament, and economic output. And that data is crucial because our mission today is to figure out how two civilizations, who according to this chart are statistically unlikely to ever fight a war, ended up trying to exterminate each other.
That's the real mystery here. We are looking at a war that just shouldn't have happened. So let's set the board. We have two main players. In the red corner, we have the Drovanth of Dromazon. I'm looking at the visual profile for their leader, Chancellor Ruvanin. Walk us through what we are seeing here, because this does not look like a guy you want to negotiate with.
He is intense. Imagine a heavy-set humanoid figure carved entirely out of obsidian. He's hairless, and his skin is cracked, revealing this internal fiery glow. The notes here describe the Drovanth as lithobiological, which is essentially rock-based life forms.
Right, and their cultural motto is literally strength is built in fire.
Exactly. They live in these towering mountain forges on Dromazon, which is a volcanic world in the Arkash Fringe. They are the galaxy's warsmiths. They make the heavy alloys, the starship hulls, the industrial machinery. They are tough, heat-resistant, and incredibly industrious.
But here's where the data gets super interesting to me. You look at Ruvanin, who is essentially a walking volcano, and you'd expect a warrior culture. Like, this guy looks like he eats tanks for breakfast. But you look at the entry for Planet 3 Dromazon, what is the actual aggression level?
It is listed as level 3 out of 10. The comment attached just says reserved.
Reserved? That seems really low for a guy made of lava.
Well, think about their environment and their biology. They live roughly 110 years. They work with stone and metal. Their entire culture is about patience, durability, and craftsmanship. A level 3 society typically avoids conflict because, well, it interrupts production. They aren't conquerors. They are makers. They want stability, not glory.
Okay, so that's the Drovanth. Makers, not fighters. Now, in the blue corner, we have the Zyralii of Zyralii. And the aesthetic contrast here is just wild.
It is the complete opposite. We have a visual for Admiral Kaalri. He is sleek, covered in blue scales with fins along the cranial ridge. He's wearing this polished, intricate armor that looks almost like ceramic.
It looks very hydrodynamic.
He is. The Zyralii are a marine-based society from the Torsion Helix.
Yeah.
And their role in this sector is logistics. If Dromazon is the factory, Zyralii is the shipping company. They control the oceans of their world, which acts as a massive hub for interstellar shipping lanes. They have the pilots, the navigators, and the fleet.
And checking the world chart for Planet 8.
Aggression level 3? Sociable.
Sociable.
Yeah, they rely on trade, they meet people, they make deals. So on paper, you have a reserve manufacturer and a sociable distributor. Logic dictates these two should be best friends. One makes the goods, the other ships them. It's a perfect symbiotic relationship.
So if the data says peace, where does the war actually come from? Because according to the timeline we have, this doesn't start with a gunshot. It starts with a spreadsheet update.
It starts with a tariff hike. The Zyralii controlling the shipping lanes decide they're undervalued. So they raise the shipping rates for Drovanth goods significantly. And crucially, they deny the Drovanth direct access to the trade lanes. They insist that only Zyralii ships can move Drovanth metal.
It's a total monopoly play.
It's a chokehold. To the Zyralii, this is just leverage. It's just a business negotiation. We control the road, you pay the toll. But you have to understand the Drovanth position here. They are landlocked in their mountains. They import almost all their food because you can't exactly farm on a volcano.
So if the ships stop, or if the price just becomes too high to pay, they literally starve.
Exactly. Ruvanin doesn't see a price negotiation, he sees a siege. There's a powerful quote in the narrative history from Ruvanin. He says, "They do not tax our gold, they tax our breath." He views it as absolute economic warfare.
But even then, Ruvanin is a level 3. He's reserved. He doesn't have a massive navy. He can't just sail over and invade Zyralii. So how does he actually respond?
He gets creative. And this is where the reserve label might be a little misleading. Just because they aren't aggressive doesn't mean they aren't incredibly stubborn. Ruvanin decides to play the Zyralii's game, but he breaks the rules. He hires profiteers,
Mercenaries.
space pirates, essentially. He pays them to harass Zyralii shipping lanes. It gives them total deniability. He can say, "Oh, is your convoy burning? That's terrible."
Right.
These lawless trade routes are so dangerous. Maybe if you lowered your tariffs, we could afford to help secure them.
It's state-sponsored piracy, which it strikes me as an incredibly dangerous game for a peaceful society to play. You are basically inviting criminal elements into a diplomatic dispute.
It is reckless. We actually have a scene from the Grand Forge Hall where Ruvanin's rallying his people. He's got them chanting, "We forge destiny." But his advisor, Eldrin, is pushing back. Eldrin is hesitating, saying, "You cannot provoke a naval superpower like this." But Ruvanin feels backed into a corner. Initially, the pirate strategy works. The Zyralii aren't stupid officially. Admiral Kaalri knows exactly what's happening. His profit margins are tanking because his ships keep getting raided. He has to spend a fortune reinforcing his convoys.
Now, this is where I want to pause and look at the intelligence aspect of all this. Because reading through the sources, something really stood out to me. The pirates were, well, they were suspiciously effective.
You notice that too?
Yeah, I mean, the pirates seemed to know exactly where the Zyralii patrols would be. And on the flip side, the Zyralii seemed to know exactly when the Drovanth were moving money to pay the pirates.
It's almost like someone turned the lights on for both sides at the exact same time. There are rumors of a third party selling information mentioned in the logs right from the start.
But in the heat of the moment, neither Ruvanin nor Kaalri stops to ask, wait, where is this intel coming from?
No, because they are panicked. They just use the intel.
Yeah.
And then the temperature spikes. A massive shipment of Drovanth weapons advanced prototypes gets stolen in transit. Zyralii blames Ruvanin, saying he's arming the pirates directly to fight them. Ruvanin completely denies it, accusing Zyralii of stealing the tech to reverse engineer it.
And that is the end of the Cold War. We move right into Act 2, the Stranglehold. Kaalri takes the gloves off. He initiates a total naval blockade of Dromazon.
This is where the geography really determines the tragedy. Dromazon starts starving. The narrative describes the fires in the forges literally dimming because they don't have fuel, the workers are weak. This is the point where a level 3 society would normally surrender. Logic dictates you capitulate to survive.
But the Drovanth culture is strength is built in fire. Pressure doesn't break them, it hardens them. Ruvanin completely refuses to yield.
And this desperation leads to the most insane innovation in this entire story. The Drovanth look at their land-based siege engines, these massive heavy tanks and mechs designed for mountain warfare, and they say, "Make them swim."
The amphibious war golems. Now, explain the mechanics to me, because my very first thought is if you put a magma core machine into the ocean, doesn't it just immediately explode?
It absolutely should. It is an engineering nightmare. But the sources describe how they hermetically seal these iron giants and install massive thermal regulation systems. Basically, the golems are constantly venting superheated steam just to keep their cores stable underwater.
So you have these giant iron monsters walking out of the surf, waiting on the ocean floor with steam hissing off their armor, engaging sleek Zyralii starships hovering just above the waves.
It is terrifying. The water around them literally boils. It's an environmental disaster as much as it is a military strategy. But it actually works initially. The Zyralii are not expecting tanks to just walk out of the ocean.
But the fighting gets brutal. And this leads us to the turning point. The moment where it goes from a gentleman's war to an absolute slaughter.
The atrocity. A rogue Zyralii admiral who is just frustrated by these golems and the massive losses his fleet is taking orders in orbital bombardment. But he doesn't target the golems. He targets a Drovanth mining district.
Civilian housing.
Yes, thousands of civilians dead in an instant.
And that's it. That is the point of no return. Ruvanin can't back down now without losing his people's faith entirely. Kaalri has lost control of his own commanders. It is total mobilization. But while they are killing each other, we need to zoom out, because while everyone is looking at the fire and the water, they are completely missing the shadow.
The puppet masters. This is where we need to open up that world chart again, because the data here tells a completely different story than the battlefield reports.
We've established that our combatants Drovanth and Zyralii are aggression level 3s, reluctant warriors. Now let's look at the consultants they brought in to help them win. First, we have Jovask, the pirate lord.
We have a visual on him, too. He is Urakim, planet 24 Urankos, aggression level 8. The notes say, violent nomadic armada.
He looks like a demon. Horns, gray skin, glowing red eyes.
Jovask isn't a businessman. He is a predator. He has been raiding both sides, taking money from Ruvanin to hit the Zyralii, and then literally selling the loot back to the Zyralii on the black market. But he is really just a scavenger. He's opportunistic. The real disease here is Thornir.
Thornir, the arms dealer. Let's look at his profile. He is a Karnoff. He's wearing a tactical mask, green and black armor. You never actually see his face. He looks like a high-tech spec ops soldier.
Planet 22 Karat, aggression level 8. The classification is violent corporate militarism.
Corporate militarism. That phrase really sticks out. It's not just that they are violent, it's that they have fully industrialized violence.
Exactly. For the Karanoth War isn't a failure of diplomacy. It is a market sector. The sources reveal that Thornir didn't just sell weapons. He orchestrated the friction points. Remember that stolen shipment of prototypes that started the actual shooting?
That was Thornir.
Thornir's operatives. He stole the Drovanth weapons to make the Zyralii paranoid. Then he sold the Zyralii forged navigational data and advanced targeting systems to counter the very weapons he just stole. Then he sold Ruvanin the raw materials to build the amphibious golems because the blockade was leaky because Thornir was bribing the blockade ships.
So he is literally selling the sword and the shield at the exact same time.
And charging a premium for both. He identified 2 level 3 societies who were naive, trusting, and economically dependent, and he manipulated them into a death spiral. It is a pure predation strategy. He knew exactly which buttons to push to turn a trade dispute into a blood feud.
It makes you look at the entire conflict completely differently. It's not fire versus water anymore. It's innocence versus experience.
It's lambs being led to the slaughter by wolves who know exactly how to herd them.
And the tragedy is, by the time Ruvanin and Kaalri finally realize this, the momentum of the war is just too heavy to stop.
That brings us right to Acts 3 and 4. The betrayal. Jovask, the pirate, eventually gets caught by the Zyralii. To save his own skin, he spills everything. He tells Kaalri, look, Thornir played you. And he's playing Ruvanin, too.
Now, logic dictates that they should stop fighting, immediately join forces, and hunt down Thornir. Why don't they do that?
It is the sunk cost fallacy written in blood. Too much has been lost. That mining district is still a smoking crater. The Drovanth cities are still starving. The hatred has become entirely self-sustaining. Ruvanin cannot go to his people and say, hey, sorry about your dead families. It was all just a big mix-up.
So they have to see it through. We head to the climax, the Battle of the Iron Tides.
This is the cinematic peak of the sources. The scene is set on a stormy ocean world. You have the amphibious golems struggling through the waves, the Zyralii drone swarms dive-bombing them from above. The weather is raging because of the thermal output of the machines boiling the sea. And then right in the middle of this, Jovask's remaining pirates, who've been completely abandoned by Thornir, decide to attack everyone just to loot the scraps.
It's a three-way free-for-all in the middle of a hurricane.
And the leaders are right in the thick of it. Ruvanin actually leads a grand invasion onto a floating city to fight Kaalri in single combat. It's magma versus water. Ruvain is burning, and Kaalri is striking back with hydro cannons.
But neither of them wins, right?
No. They're both exhausted, their fleets are burning, and then the planet itself decides it has had enough.
The classic Deus ex machina.
A massive underwater volcanic eruption. The tectonic stress of the orbital bombardment, combined with these massive golems marching on the seafloor, triggers a huge geological event. It disrupts the entire battlefield. The shock waves shatter the floating cities and the golems alike.
So the planet effectively forces a ceasefire.
They physically cannot keep fighting. The environment becomes too hostile for anyone. They have to retreat.
So the smoke clears and we are in the epilogue. Who actually won the Forge War?
Nobody. Dromazon is financially ruined. They lost their privateer fleet and their best artisans in the fighting. They have to go back to using Zyralii shipping, but now they have zero leverage to negotiate the rates. They are far poorer than when they started.
And Zyralii.
Their economy is wrecked. Trade has been completely disrupted for months. They are forced into a truce just to avoid total bankruptcy. It's described in the texts as a fragile peace. They aren't shaking hands, they're just licking their wounds.
And what about the villains? What happens to Thornir?
Jovask vanishes into the void, presumably with whatever loot he could carry. But Thornir, the real mastermind, he escapes completely. The sources imply he's already liquidated his assets in the sector and moved on to a different system entirely.
He's just out there looking for the next pair of level 3 civilizations to set on fire.
He is a serial arsonist of civilizations. And looking at the world chart, you realize why. Thornir comes from the Aurora Spindle sector, planet 23, the Felark aggression level 10, planet 26, the Melevant aggression level 10.
So he comes from a neighborhood of absolute monsters.
The Drovanth and Zyralii were playing a game they didn't even know the rules to. They thought they were fighting a trade dispute. Thornir was fighting a resource extraction war, and they were the resource.
That is a really heavy realization. It highlights that knowing your enemy isn't actually enough. You need to know who is supplying your enemy.
And who's holding the clipboard watching you fight?
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what is the big takeaway here for you, aside from the obvious, don't trust guys in tactical masks?
For me, it's about the sheer danger of economic leverage. The Zyralii thought a tariff was a completely safe move. They didn't calculate the desperation it would create. When you back a peaceful society into a corner, they don't just surrender, they innovate. They build monsters that can walk on the ocean floor.
And for me, it's the tragedy of those level 3s. These were decent societies. They just wanted to make things and ship things, but they were so easily manipulated because they couldn't conceive of a mindset like Thornir's. They projected their own rationality onto an irrational actor.
Which is always a fatal error.
It really is. So to leave you with a final thought today, thinking about the Thornirs of the universe, how many conflicts in our own history or even our future are actually just business transactions for a third party watching from the sidelines? Something for you to chew on next time you see a trade dispute heating up on the news.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the archives of the Forge War. It is a story of firewater and the cold, hard cash that flows between them. Check your sources, verify your pre-deals, and we will catch you on the next one.
Stay curious.